The dreams. The dreams. The dreams. The dreams.
We could go. Something might be out there.
Hey everybody, welcome. It's Tuesday. We're gonna do some coding here. My name is Ambo the Custoda, and of course, gotta start the stream out with having video not working. That's always great, right? Is this gonna be like this just all the time? Let's see here. Oh, we got video back. Look at that. Awesome. Happy 4th of July, everybody. It's the 4th. And here in the US, at least, it's a holiday. But no stinking holiday is going to set me back from doing some streaming here, so we're going to work on some code. Yeah, I went outside this morning. It's hot here. I live in Alabama. It was like, I don't know, it's about 97 degrees out there right now. Just about mowed the lawn. It was pretty hot mowing the lawn. For those of you in Europe, like 97 degrees is like almost 40 degrees Celsius. Actually, it might be 40 degrees Celsius. It's very hot out there where I'm getting at. So we're drinking some Gatorade here. We're going to use AI to see if we can improve our code a little bit. Let's go do a really quick rehash on what's going on here in our code base. So, one, our branch we're currently in is in user profile image. We're not done with the user profile image, but we'd like to finish that today on the stream. You see here I'm running, this is Warp. So if you haven't used the Warp terminal before, go grab that thing on macOS. It's pretty darn amazing. And if you can have custom prompts, that's using Starship, it's called. And so if you look up Starship on Starship prompt, you will find that it is a pretty useful thing, especially if you're a Node developer. That's why I like the Node version you're using, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. I've demoed that off in previous streams. Highly recommend you check it out. Let's take a look at our app running right now. Let's see like what some tweaks we need to do here. So on last stream, we got images saving to the database. We know they're saving to the database because we use VS Code. We looked at the database and we saw that on top of the document is this digest. And this digest has a hash of the actual image itself. And we looked at the database to see if we look here in the folder, we have to go to the file system to see that. But if we look at the folder of it, which I think I put in, where did I put this? Let's see if I can see this in Finder. Copy relative path. And then if I go to copy the relative path here, and then what I should be able to do is just go into the Finder here and go to folder and paste that in, and that should tell me where the database is. And no cut and paste there, that's great. I'm pretty sure I put it in the downloads. Let's go check and see if it's in downloads. Pretty sure on that. It's not there. Well, that's great. Let's try here it is. It's on the desktop. Of course, that's why I put it. Well, if you take a look here, you'll see here I have an attachments folder. And in the attachments, you see this little blob file. That's the image, the profile image. And so this is actually should match up with the hash code. You'll see here that if we take a look here, oh boy, it's Tuesday. SHA1. If you take the SHA1 dash out, the rest of this should match, and that's the hash code of the file. You'll see here, then it just says with a .blob file. That tells us that we know that this image is actually this exact same digest here. So this image is what we need to use. Now it's pretty big actually, 4 megabytes. Whew, boy. Man, that's gonna make our database really big, and it's gonna make our app container really, really big. I think we need to probably take a look at maybe trying to thin those images down quite a bit. I'm not going to save this file because I didn't make any changes, and I'm going to close this database, even though it's a copy of the database. I copied it to my desktop. Because I copied it to my desktop, I don't have to worry about corrupting the database. But I'd have to say that 4 megabytes is a little bit big for me. That's the first problem we're going to probably have to solve. The second problem is I really would like this image to be more of a circle than a square block. Because if we go back to our image here, you'll see that it's circled, right? And that's the most common way you want to look at a user profile image. So, if we select this image, we definitely want that, to be a circle. So let's see here. We could probably start tackling some of these problems. Let's go take a look at our code and see what we can do here. So when we go to see how we save the image, there should be a button that it's been a while, so this is what always ends up happening, right? If it's been a while since you looked at the code, you're trying to remember, how does your code work? And you hope that you wrote it well enough where you can figure that out. So if we take a look here, the image data should come from the selection. So when we select the image up here, if data, so here's how we get the data, right? So you'll see here that on change, so this is done because we have a photo picker. The photo picker, we basically go through and say, hey, we want to get a photo from the photo album, right? And then we're going to say on change. So if they select an image, we're going to go in and grab one of these, and we're going to try to get the data from it. Now, the problem we're going to have here is that when we grab it, we need to probably shrink it up. So let's see here. We don't want to do it on the actual raw data because that would make it we're not guaranteeing that the scaling will work. Hey Nick, how's it going? Yeah, I'm back to code here. So I don't think we want to do it there. So we got an avatar item. Let's look at avatar item real quick here and see what we have available. And we have, so that load transient, okay, reject. I want to see the autocomplete items without having GitHub get into it. That's the only thing I don't like about the plugin here is the plugin automatically floats over and then it makes my autocomplete items go bad. What plugin, you ask? Well, it's this one right here. This is the CoPilot for Xcode plugin that allows you to get GitHub CoPilot to give you AI assistance when you're writing your Xcode code, which is pretty cool. The disadvantage though is that sometimes when you want to see the Xcode recommendation for this, it covers that up. And that makes it really kind of hard. And if I tell it to reject it, it just closes my code complete window. So 1 second, let's see if we can fix that real quick because that's going to be annoying over a long period of time. And if we go to advanced, let's see here. Let's see here, CoPilot, real time suggestions, floating widget, near text cursor. So that's only 2 options we have. I'm not sure what that will do if we change it to that. I have a feeling I'm not going to like that either. So let's see if we try it now what happens. Well, nothing. Oh, okay, well that's above the cursor. That actually makes me happy. If it puts it above the cursor and I can still see my stuff below the cursor, that makes me really, that's actually pretty nice. All right, let's see here. So we're gonna direct that, flat scale, let's see here. So we're getting the data out here. Data is equal, so let's see here, let's go back to the photo picker. I wonder if I could do it in photo picker. So photo style presentation, what are we getting here? This is probably just the UI though, right? I don't think it's going to allow me to change the size of the image when you pick it. I'm pretty sure ChatGPT ain't going to be any help on this, but let's go find out, right? So let's go ask ChatGPT real quick here. But I think it's not going to know what I'm talking about here. How can I scale down an image that is provided by Photos Picker? Oh, would I have to get the data back out? Okay, what are we saying here? It's saying that we do want to keep the aspect ratio, right? It's gonna look goofy if we don't keep the aspect ratio. Let me turn this music down a little bit here too. It looks like it's getting a little competitive with me here as I talk. We probably don't want to lose the scale ratio because it's gonna look terrible then. So here we have an extension that's gonna allow us to calculate the aspect ratio of the original and then adjust the size accordingly. So it looks like it's going to say if you give it a CG size, so CG stands for core graphics. This is the core graphic size. This is super old school stuff. This is the stuff I used to do in UIKit, so feels really familiar to me. We're going to calculate the aspect ratio by dividing width by height. That makes sense. We're going to say new width equals the size of the width, and so that size is coming from the original size coming in, and then the new height would be the new height or new width divided by the aspect ratio, which should calculate the height. And that makes sense because we're getting the aspect ratio here. We know the size is coming in. We're just going to say we need the width, but since we don't know the height, we need to calculate that, but we don't want it to look janky, so we want to use that new aspect ratio that we calculated. And then we basically just make a new size by making the CG size. We add our new width, our new height. That makes sense. And then we render the image back out. And so this is the UI graphics image renderer. We set it to the new size. And then we have to tell the renderer to render the image. And so that we're extending the UI image. So that makes sense that we're going to now use the internal renderer of the image. So we'll say renderer, give me the image that we're currently in, because its extension would be the current image we have. And then the context is just basically, what is this, right? And then we're going to use draw. And every UI component inside of UIKit should have a drawer that you can override. So I think UI image override inherits from view, if I remember right, or UI view in UIKit. And then we can just say we want to draw in a rectangle. We're going to make a new CG rec, and that's a rectangle. And then we're going to say the original is 0, which would mean that we're going to be at coordinate 0, 0. It's an XY coordinate because image is 2D. And then we're going to say of the new size. And the new size is what we have calculated out here based on the width and the aspect ratio. This all code makes sense to me. I am perfectly comfortable with stealing this code from ChatGPT and bringing it in. So let's go copy here real quick. And we go into Xcode. We need to make a folder for extensions. We don't have one yet. So let's go ahead and do a new group. And we'll say extensions. And then we'll need to make a new file. So let's go to new file here. We're going to select it next on this. And we're going to say this is UI image. And then in here, we can just delete this and pop this in. And that looks great. We now have a new UI image. Cannot find UI image. So we have to import UIKit, and for the hell of it, we're gonna do foundation. Shouldn't need foundation. Cannot find. You should be able to find. Don't you be lying to me to the Xcode. You can find that. Don't be a jerk. All right, I found it. All right, so that's our first part, right? So now we have this new cool, super cool extension. The problem is we pulled the data out. And then we get a UI image of the data because the data is raw. If let UI image equals here of the data, now the problem is that we got to resize the image. So now that we have a UI image, it seems very inefficient. But because we're going to get the raw data from the photo picker, and then we're going to make it an image, but then we have to rescale it before we show it. Because we want to make it so that it's smaller in size. Well, this seems very efficient. Let me do a to-do here. To-do, maybe. But for right now, let's just test it, see if this works. So if we have a UI image, and we got this pointer to the UI image, right? We're going to say let new image equal UI image. Oops. We have our UI image here, our pointer, and we're going to say, what was that called? Scale. Scale, and then we have 2, and then we need a size. And so we're going to say CG. Whoa, hey, wait. CoPilot, you look at you coming in. Okay, I totally accept this. But we don't want to give it a height. Well, I guess the height doesn't matter because if I remember right, the extension could only use the width because it uses aspect ratio. So let's just double check that. We'll click on size here and we'll see. I don't see anywhere else sizes. So you'll see here. Oh, it does use aspect ratio to figure out the aspect ratio we want. It's not what we want though, because don't we want the original aspect ratio from the image? So we don't know what the image aspect ratio is. Can we ask the image what the, well. Now think about this for a second. So we're saying scale to the size, but we're calculating the aspect ratio ourselves. We get the new width, and we calculate the new height based on that. But we're sending in the code for the aspect ratio. So, Is that really what we... Well, I know I want the image to be probably no bigger than 300 by 300. But we don't know what the current image is. Oh, let's do this. Image that... let's see. Oh shit, look at this. This is really what we want. There's JPEG. We could actually just tell the JPEG to automatically scale. Yeah, but we probably want the size down because that's also going to drop it quite a bit. Image orientation. Nope. No aspect ratio there. We have the size. The size should be a CG, right? Yeah, it should be a CG. So we could go through and get a CG size. So that'll give us the width and height. Well, wait a minute here. Okay. We could change this extension because we know the width and height. We can get the aspect ratio and send in the aspect ratio that we want. Yeah, what are we thinking here, right? We could just send in the original. So let's do this, right? Or we have it, right? Wait, we have it. We are a UI image. So we should be able to say self that size. Right? Of course we can. So this is what we want to do. We want to get these. Oh, it is using self. Look at this, you guys. I'm screwing up here, man. It's a holiday. Look, it already is using itself to find the aspect ratio of the current image. It's using self for this. So this makes sense. So I'm going to pass it to width, and then it'll calculate the new height. This is working right. This is exactly what we want. Sorry, I had to walk through this one more time. Apologize for being slow on this, but this is exactly what we want because the current image that we currently are in, because this extension will tell us the aspect ratio. We just need to set a width. It's never going to use the size we pass in, height. So it doesn't matter what we set it to because we calculate the height based on the aspect ratio. This makes sense. All right, let's go back to the profile view then. And so we say we have a new image, which is we're going to scale to 300 by 300. Oh, let's see here. I don't need that line anymore. We're experimenting. So if we say this is what we want to do here now, the cool thing is what we should be able to do is say we can get the data. So we have the new image, right? So we'll want to draw the new image. But the difference though is here we don't want to set avatar data to data because we want to say avatar data equals, we're going to say new image, right? PNG data. Okay, why is it mad here now? It could be no. The scale 2 is a nullable? Oh, come on. Really? If let. Yeah. Swift. You dastardly language, you. We should be able to do this then, right? Because if we put it into if let, then we'll say if this actually comes back and it's not nullable, then we should be able to get this image and then do our magic here. Why is it mad now? Cannot use, wait. I think Xcode's just joshing me here. I think it's actually fine. Hey Nick, so what's up, man? How's your 4th going? I hope it's going well. I hope that this is a holiday stream, so if you're up here, you should. I didn't really think that many people were going to join the stream today because it's a holiday in the U.S. and this is really my time slot usually for the Europe and Asia countries. When I stream, I usually stream at night for the U.S. But I figured tonight is going to probably be a bust. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people online. I might jump on for a little bit tonight, but probably not very long because of the fact that it's a holiday. And my dog's going to freak out tonight because it's fireworks. And Yoda, my small wonder mutt, he does not like fireworks. Oh, hey, man. Happy holiday. Thanks, buddy. First time chat. Hey, welcome to the chat, buddy. And thanks for the, I'm going to do a follow real quick here. And thanks for the happy holidays. Happy holidays to you. Yesterday I came across your channel. I was watching your last stream. I really liked it. I'd like to get a quick opinion from you if you don't mind. Oh, hey, I'm full of opinions. That's what happens if you've been doing this too long. You end up forming those things, right? I will preference this opinion thing with my wife says statistically I'm about 33% of the time wrong. So I just want to warn you on that. I don't think that it's that high. It may be 20%, but I am human and flawed. So I will give you an opinion, but I can't guarantee it's the best opinion. Shoot, though. With the disclaimers aside. No worries. Perfect. I am a front-end dev, and I quit my job to learn iOS development. Oh, boy. Okay. That's a pretty serious commitment. So I've been learning for the last 3 weeks between a Udemy course, YouTube videos, and simple Swift language stuff, and reading about some stuff when I need it. But I really want your advice to know if reading the documentation of Apple is like a good choice to know how the whole Swift UIKit environment works in depth, or is the best recommendation you can give me. They're both really huge to start with. You're 200% right. This is a very, very interesting problem. All right. So, I asked this because both SwiftUI and UIKit are so big, I really want to avoid losing my time learning the wrong source. Well, okay. Here's the whole thing. Throughout learning one, yeah. So, let's see here. Let's peel the onion for a second, right? So to start out with, UIKit versus SwiftUI. I know UIKit really well. Programmed in it for over 10 years. There's a ton of production stuff out there in UIKit. You are never going to be wrong learning UIKit because there's probably a ton of jobs you could probably get maintenance in code in UIKit. However, SwiftUI is where all the new awesomeness is. And that's where the provision and all the new Apple hardware is. For the first time, in the past, I'd say learn UIKit because it's really stable. It's going to guarantee you a job into the mobile development field, and there's nothing that you can't build with it. But that's not true anymore, because if you want the new cool awesomeness of Provision and you want to do native development, now we need to talk about that for a second. Apple's saying that you can basically load any iOS application, regardless if it's written in UIKit or SwiftUI, and you can render it. It's just going to render on the screen like every other app, though. You're not going to be able to do visuals, custom visuals. You're not going to be able to do those cool 2 or 3D objects that you want to do to really interact with the environment. Instead, it's going to be more like a flat surface, and the app will be running there. So if you want the cool second option of having the ability to customize that app to make it an awesome Provision experience, SwiftUI is the only way to do that. And when Apple made that decision, it really kind of changed everybody in the iOS community's perspective on SwiftUI. SwiftUI is not that old. We're only a couple versions in, right? But already in version 3 and 4 here, version 3, I want to say, let's see, it's 2021, I'm doing math here in my head. Either way, SwiftUI is very new, and this is the first version that came out this year that I think is prime time. It's ready to say that you could build anything in it. Navigation finally works to the point where you don't need navigation controllers and stuff. What I'm getting at is that there's nothing wrong with picking SwiftUI. However, no matter where you go to work, you may run into some older code of UIKit where you're going to have to learn that. But on the flip side, you could probably learn that on the job. The second thing is, SwiftUI, while it is a different concept of learning how to code a UI, and it looks a lot like front end, like React. And so one thing I'm going to say is that if you do go the SwiftUI way, and you're already like an Angular or a React developer, you're going to find SwiftUI. You're going to love this thing. It's very similar to React components. Not the same 100% because over in React we have JSX, right? And we have our business logic and we kind of compile it in. But when you think about state and stuff, you're going to find that SwiftUI is going to feel very comfortable to you. Yeah, and UIKit is kind of like MVC. It's like the best way I could decide the kind of describe this in the not really in the web world, but over in Java, if you were to use like Spring Data and you were to use Spring to build like a full page app that has the ability to render server side your web pages, and they can render in Java. That's what MVC kind of reminds me of a little bit. Or even if you go look at ASP.NET, they have something out there, and their frame kit for drawing. There's Maui, and there's one called Maui Blazor, and Blazor allows you to do server side web pages as a mobile app, and that reminds me a lot of what MVC looks like with UIKit. MVC is really easy to learn, though. I truly believe that there's no problems with it. If you learn SwiftUI, you absolutely can use UIKit after. So my long-term answer is, I know I've taken a long time to get here, but I think you should learn SwiftUI first. That's my personal opinion. Why? Because I think it's going to break down all the barriers. And here's the whole thing. In order to learn something new, you want to love doing it. You're going to want to have fun doing it. And that makes the learning faster, and it makes it easier, and it's going to get you in the mobile space easier. So pick the thing that's easiest to learn. And I think that SwiftUI will be easier for you as a React developer. Now, how to learn? Well, honestly, this is the hardest thing that every developer has to learn, how to learn. And when I interview developers, that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out is how do they learn? I believe, and this is my personal opinion again, that developers learn the best way from writing code. If you look at me, I'm writing code right now in SwiftUI. Why? Because I haven't done SwiftUI in about 8 months, and I want to keep my skills up to date. And the only way to do that is just write code. So if you want to learn SwiftUI, just build something. You can look at all the videos you want. You can write in the code as they're writing it, but honestly, until you build your own project, you ain't going to learn anything that you're going to stick with. The more you write code, the more you memorize it, because you run into problems. And then you find a solution to that problem. You go, oh, that's the fix for that. And you keep doing that over and over again. You start memorizing like the different things. And once you get used to this, writing it enough, you will just become a SwiftUI expert. So my recommendation is you could watch all the courses in the world. You could read all the documentation you want. But really, one of the best ways to learn it is just start writing an app. And then the problem comes is, what should I pick to write my first app? And usually I always say is pick something you're good at. If you like Pokemon, write an app that lists out Pokemon, and you can get a list of Pokemon, you select on them, and it shows one of the elements of the Pokemon, like a picture of them, maybe all their stats. If you like music, make a music app that maybe lists all your favorite artists and all the songs they have, and when you click on the artist in the song, it shows the lyrics or something like that. Make it nice and easy, but make it something that has more than one dimension of data. When I say that, you should have the ability to click on something and then be able to see the details of it. This is the most common thing you do in mobile programming, right? You have a list of something. If you go into the notes apps, you have a list of notes, and you click on it, and then it shows you the actual notes itself, and you can modify the note. That's a common thing. Your email client, you get a list of emails, you click on the email, you can view the email, you can reply back, right? Very common pattern. So that's usually called in UI split view, we'd have obviously our regular view and then our detail view, our content view, they call it in detail view. And that pattern you want to kind of get used to, because once you get used to listing out data and then be able to edit the data, you've got all the skills it needs to start on that journey of SwiftUI development. Now, I'll say this. Most people don't realize that Apple's got some pretty good documentation. And if we go to docs.apple.com, or I think it's developer.apple.com. Give me a second. Apple.com. I'm going to go into the developer site. They have an introduction getting started, and they do it better than most people. And so if I go to, let's see here, I want to develop, and I'm going to go into SwiftUI, and then there should be SwiftUI here, and what there should be is a new tutorial that they have, and they should have in a link here somewhere. Let's see, tutorials right here. So I went to the Apple developer website, clicked on SwiftUI, went to the tutorials here. I'll throw this in chat, by the way. 4 hours and 25 minutes. This is free. This will walk you through exactly what I described. You're gonna get you're gonna take a list of something, and you're gonna be able to see the details of it. And they walk you through the entire process of building this app. They show you how to do everything from building the essentials, which is getting a list and navigation working. They walk you through drawing and animations. They go through the design and layout of apps, framework integration. They give you everything you need to get started here. Here's my recommendation. Don't use everybody else. Just use Apple to start out with. Well, of course, my cut and paste is not working. Go to, oh, what just happened here? Why am I, let me go back here. Go back. So go to developer.apple.com/tutorial/SwiftUI. Scroll all the way to the bottom and find yourself tutorials, and go through the tutorials that are at the very bottom. And I'm telling you right now, this is the best way to learn Swift. I almost always, this is where I get started. I go to Apple's tutorials, I read those first, and then as I need to, I may go watch a video, but really like a Udemy course or something like that. But most of the time I don't even do that anymore. I just start building something. After I read the Apple stuff and I feel pretty comfortable with it, I just say, okay, what am I going to build? I know like about 8 different enterprise apps I've built over the years. I know the workflow of those, so I don't have to think about the workflow of the app. For example, we're building an expense report app. I've built like 3 of these things. So I don't have to think about like how an expense app report works. I know this already. So what I'm learning instead is not how to build an expense report app. I'm learning SwiftUI. I'm reminding myself how Swift works as a language. That's what I'm here to do. The expense report just happens to be something that is a good example for people to see. It's got plenty of things that are unique to it that make it where it's kind of interesting, and I can learn all kinds of different parts of SwiftUI by building that example. But by no means is it the only way. A lot of times I'll build like a project management system that has projects and tasks. I do that a lot. I do an inventory management system. I've built those before, so I know how to build one of those. That's where I go back to a little bit ago when I said build what you know. If you're going to build your first app or your second app or even your third app, build a workflow that you understand. Like if you're building a gym app to track like when you go to the gym, that's something very simple to do. You know schedules. You know how that works. That means you don't have to think about the workflow all that hard. Instead, you're going to focus on learning SwiftUI and not the workflow. Don't get yourself triaged in, or don't get yourself into a situation where you're going to say, I'm going to build this really super complicated app that has 50 features and this and that. You'll never get it done because you're now focused on building the app, not learning SwiftUI. You have to make a decision that you want to learn SwiftUI, and don't make that the focus of your first app of like building the app. Make the focus of the app is learning SwiftUI by example of building an app. So if the app becomes a thing that you're doing instead of learning, it's going to change what you do and how you build it in many different ways, right? And so since this is a learning experience, that's my recommendation. So I know I talked for about 10 minutes there on that, but my recommendations is use Apple's examples. I would start with SwiftUI. That's what Apple recommends anyways. If you go to their website here, you'll see this is where the examples are in SwiftUI. You get down to the bottom here, and they'll actually say interfacing with UIKit. They'll give you some stuff how to do that, right? They'll go through it and walk you through how to make this into a Mac app, all those kind of things, which isn't all that hard, but that's what you want to do. That's my big recommendation. Once you've got SwiftUI down, then you can start looking at things like Combine. Combine is a framework for messaging, and it's got a pub sub or publisher and subscription based system. And for a lot of developers, this is just a slick way of getting data back and forth. So those are my recommendations. Of course, I could be wrong, but also look at the companies you want to go interview for. Just go do a search on the internet and go find out what they're looking for. And if most of the companies that you're looking for iOS mobile developers are saying SwiftUI, learn SwiftUI. But if you go look on the job boards right now and everybody's asking for UIKit, you may want to switch to learn UIKit first because that's where the jobs are. That's the hardest thing about mobile development is you got to go where the jobs are, especially if you're going to like be in a local city. If you're in San Francisco, you can find a job just about doing anything. So don't worry about that. But if you're in a small city, out in the Midwest or something like that, you definitely want to be hypersensitive to the jobs that are available to you. If you're not looking for a remote job, make sure that you're learning something that is marketable to the community of people currently looking for people. So that's something also to take into account, which logically kind of makes sense, right? Cool. Well, I hope that helps you out. And thank you for coming to the channel. And I hope you can stick around and maybe learn some stuff here. So we're building an expense report app, and we've got a lot of SwiftUI stuff going in here. Anytime. That's what this is for, the community. Now, the other thing I recommend is don't listen to just me. Go onto my Twitch site, and in there I have the Dev Club link to a Discord. Go join that Discord. There's a bunch of like-minded developers that also are doing this, and there's there's a channel there called Swift and SwiftUI. Go into the channel and just say, hey, do an introduction to yourself. Hey, I'm new to the channel, or I'm new to the community. I'm learning, and throw that out. Throw out Swift and SwiftUI channel and get some opinions from the other developers also. They're going to help you so much that, and getting into a community is like half the battle. Honestly, getting into a community is going to make this go so much better for you because you'll gain some friends. And I'll tell you, back in the old days, in the 90s and the early 2000s and stuff, I learned so much from my co-employees. I worked with a bunch of people, and I would look at their code, they look at my code, and we learn from each other, right? But when you're learning and you don't have a job yet, you need to find another way of learning from other people, and the community is the way to do it. Now, I will say that this community also is part of the iOS Happy Hour. And I highly recommend it. If you've never seen this before, you got to attend a happy hour because they're pretty great. They're on Saturdays. They're usually the last Saturday of the month. iOS Happy Hour. Just do a Google search for this, and you'll find it right here. And I'm going to block Google. You don't need to know about my location. Don't be AI overlords. Yeah, the happy hour here. So usually, I don't know if this is going to run for July, but if you're going to attend one of these events, attend these. These are amazing. You're going to meet so many developers. In the Dev Club, I think they all are from the iOS Happy Hour community. So it's kind of like a subset of that group. The other thing I will say is there's another community called Hacking with Swift. And hacking with Swift. So this guy right here, Paul, he has a Discord, or not Discord, it's a Slack channel. And so if you're really serious about this, go to Paul's videos. He's probably got the best documentation videos out there. But he has a go to Hacking with I think it's Hacking with Swift, and you want the Slack channel. And you could join the Slack channel. You can get a free account for Slack right here. So hackingwithswift.slack.com. Join that. Because that's the other community out there that is crazy amazing. When I look at the SwiftUI community, just Swift in general, there's the happy hour community, and I like the dev club that is on Discord. But then the Hacking with Swift is a whole nother community that is just super amazing. A bunch of like-minded developers. I don't have Slack installed on this computer, but I'm telling you right now, if you join this community, you're never going to go wrong. Paul's a super cool guy. Check out his website, Hacking with Swift. There's so many things you're going to learn there. I go there a lot. If I'm looking to learn something, I don't know how to do it, that's one of the first places I'm going to look. Now, of course, these videos I'm doing here, I'm trying to use AI, and I'm trying to point out that the good and bad of AI. That's the goal. So if you ask me, why am I doing these streams, right? What the heck's the point of this? What are you trying to do, Aaron, here? Well, one, I'm just trying to get my Swift speed. I want to keep my Swift up to date. I want to make sure I can continue to build Swift apps when I need to. That's the first goal of mine, right? The second goal is I really want to kind of explore these options of AI assistance, either through GitHub CoPilot or through ChatGPT. I also want to point out the flaws to the community and say that these are not perfect. There's a lot of developers that are scared they're going to lose their job, and I'm like, that ain't happening anytime soon, folks. So let me just tell you that these AI tools are still just rudimentary basic. Of course, anybody that's super technical will tell you that, right? I mean, like ChatGPT, for example, it hasn't been trained since 2002, I think, or 2001. September 2001, I think, was when we asked it. We asked it on a previous stream, like when its last training was. And it came back and was very honest with us and said, hey, I don't know anything about Swift prior to 2001. We're like, oh boy, that's like 3 versions ago. So the version of Swift that ChatGPT knows about is Swift 5.5. We're on Swift 5.9. So that's 4 versions, folks. So that means that there's a lot of things it's going to say and it's going to be wrong on, or there's going to be a better way of doing it. And so that's why I say to developers, mobile is different than React. Mobile is so different than web. In the world of web, if you think about it, the last time the web had changed in a pretty major way was HTML5. Well, lo and behold, that was well over 14 years ago. HTML5 is now no longer a new thing, and there's no HTML6 coming anytime soon. Now, React has come out with new versions, don't get me wrong, and there's other frameworks that you can write in. There's things like Svelte out there and Solid.js and stuff, but when you look at the core of web and you talk about it, the core concept of what it's trying to do, there's no different. Nothing's changed from a high level. Even if you look at the difference between React 17 and 18, what are you talking about here? Okay, they changed how you mount the root when you start a new app. Okay, that's actually a significant change, but really in the grand scheme of things, it's not all that hard to learn. When you look at the differences between React and 17 and 18, they're not hard. They're very easy to pick up. In mobile land, when we talk about SwiftUI and we talk about we talk about Jetpack Compose over in Android, every major release is a major deal. There's a ton of stuff to learn, and they do it every year. Every year, you're going to have to learn new things, and it's a lot of new things. That's the hardest thing about mobile development, is that it's a moving target. It is constantly moving. It's constantly iterating to make things better. In the world of React, the last time React got a major update was a couple years ago. I mean, React is kind of sitting here in a stable state. Don't get me wrong. I'm not picking on it by any means. So I'm just saying the world of web moves much differently than the world of mobile. Mobile moves way faster. Unless you're going to constantly switch JavaScript frameworks, which don't do that. That's silly, right? So mobile is a whole nother game level to play at. Don't get me wrong. Once you get into it, it's awesome. And once you learn SwiftUI, like learning the new stuff, it's usually not a big deal. Apple usually gives a ton of documentation. WWDC videos are out and free. There's like literally a week worth of videos you can go watch. You can get up to speed. But I will tell you this. Understand that coming to mobile development means that you will spend more time learning than you do in the web world. I truly believe that there is a 10 to 15% difference of time, personal time, that you're going to spend keeping up to date with mobile, keeping up and making sure that you understand those skills. And that's something to take into account when you come into the mobile end, and know that it's a constantly changing world. However, the benefits of mobile far outweigh the cons, if you ask me. I can build apps very quickly from my phone. I can put it on my iPad. My wife asked me to build her app. I can build that like in a weekend. I mean, there's so many things that you could do in mobile so fast. It is a very fast iteration system. In the world of web, it's super complicated usually. There's a lot of different frameworks. There's the average React project has over 50 packages you have to memorize. In the entire SwiftUI app, I've got one package so far. I mean, and maybe you get 5 packages in total if you're lucky in a SwiftUI app. And that's if you're being lazy, to tell you the truth. You don't write it yourself. There's a good time where I've shipped many apps with very few packages inside of them. That's one of the advantages to mobile also, is you're not have to find 100 packages and bring into your solution to get your whatever you're building up and running. You don't need that, because SwiftUI is so flexible, and UIKit also. If you get doing a SwiftUI, you probably can do it in UIKit, and you could hybrid your app between UIKit and Swift, and you're gonna get the best of both worlds then. So that's a very long rant to talk about this, but welcome to the mobile platform, and I think that you've made a good decision. I've been doing this for about 28 years, and I have done web, I've done Windows applications, I've written .NET, C, C++, Java, Kotlin. I've done Jetpack Compose. I do a lot of Jetpack Compose actually still. I've done Flutter. I've done React Native. I lead a team of React people part-time at the company I work for right now. So I know a lot about front-end web development. I know a lot about back-end development. But really, my expertise is mobile, and I really like it more than anything else that I know. I'm also a database expert. I know a lot about databases, probably too much. But I really love mobile. Out of all the things I know, mobile is my favorite. And it's the thing that I keep going back to over and over again, because it's just fun. It's enjoyable. And that's something I can't say about all the other knowledge I have. There's just certain parts of other things other ways of building things that I've found not enjoyable. And SwiftUI and Jetpack Compose are the two most enjoyable ways I have done building apps in the last 10 years of my career. So I can say that you've picked a good path to be, if you want to enjoy yourself and just have code that's clean, really easy to read, and is actually fun, and super easy to do ridiculously complicated things. That's the other thing that just drives me crazy, is just how easy it is to do this. For this, for example, I mean, we're just changing this image on. It's super easy to do this. I mean, in UIKit, oh boy, I'd have to think about this a little bit harder and make sure I'm doing it in the right life cycle. That's the other thing that sucks in UIKit. You have to think about life cycle of how the application is going to draw and redraw itself, because we have these constraint system in UIKit, and that's really complicated. And honestly, it can be very not fun to write in, and that's probably what most people tell you, is that you go to UIKit and it feels like it's so much more archaic. And it is what it is. There's millions of apps that shipped in UIKit, so there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, obviously, millions of apps can't be wrong, right? But it's just a little bit more complicated to write in. But I truly believe if you're a developer and you're a smart person, you can learn anything. You just need time and patience, and you can learn anything. Don't give up on yourself, and always believe that, yeah, I can probably do this. Just remember, millions of developers learn this all the time. You are a developer. That means that you can learn it too. That it's a positive mindset, because really negativity is one of the things that's going to burn you out. I just realize that all the time. I'll give you another example. I'm afraid of heights. Definitely afraid of heights. Man, oh man, I get really scared around heights. However, I fly all the time. And I get on a plane, and of course, that fear of heights kicks in. And I'm just like, oh, I'm probably going to be miserable. But know how I not get myself miserable? I remind myself that millions of people fly every day, and they're just fine. I remind myself that millions of people have been flying for many years, and the amount of plane crashes are pretty small. So the percentage of chances of something really happening to me in this high plane are very small. So minute that it's not even worth me worrying about. And that's what keeps me going. And I go, okay. And then logically, I can work myself through that to say, yeah, now of course, my brain is wired weird, right? And so my brain's still going, oh no, this is bad, Aaron, really danger, Will Robinson, don't do this. And of course I get like the panic attack kind of symptoms of like, my throat feeling like it's going to close and, the shakes and that kind of stuff. And that's when you go to a doctor and say, hey man, sometimes when I'm on a plane for long flights, I start to like have a panic attack, and then usually they give you like a pill. I don't like taking pills, but honestly, if I'd rather be okay than not miserable, because it makes my wife miserable when I'm miserable, and I usually fly with her. So the answer is I'll go to a doctor and say, hey, look, if I'm going to be on like an 8-hour flight to Europe, I'm going to need some kind of pill, because no matter how much I convince myself, my body doesn't always listen. And what I'm getting at here is that it's really about your mind, right? And keeping your positive focus on your mind of learning how to develop. I can tell you stories about Dustin, my one of the juniors I hired I didn't hire him, the company I work for hired him, but I recommended him. And all of his journeys of becoming a developer I always find entertaining and interesting to tell, because one of Dustin's biggest problems was he couldn't figure out how to learn. He kept building things, he kept having all these side projects, but he never finished them. And the real heart of the problem was he tried to create like a full video game and get frustrated because he couldn't get anything working, because he couldn't break it down into smaller chunks. And this is what I was telling you, don't try to build something really big and complicated. Build something small and build on top of it. Like in here, I'm not trying to build the whole app right now. I'm just trying to get the user profile working. And if I can just get the user profile working, I'm going to be super happy, because in a future stream, I'll get the expense report viewer working. And in the future stream after that, I'll get the ability to edit those things. But I know there has to be an order of making this thing work. And by tackling this, by just doing small problems at a time, I can keep myself from getting burnt out of like, oh man, I can't get anything working. And that's one of the problems with learning. You have to kind of learn that. You have to learn to take on smaller things. And when you don't know something, do a POC, do a proof of concept. Just go through and write some scratch code that you can throw away. You're just trying to figure out how to do something. There's nothing wrong with a POC. They're really great. So it's another learning tip I have for you. But back to this image, we wanted to get the image data out, and we want to make it smaller. I think we've solved the problem with smaller, right? Because what we're going to do here is we're going to say, hey, we're going to scale that image down to 300 by 300, but really not 300 by 300. We're going to scale it down by 300, and then whatever aspect ratio it is, this new method that we came up with, this extension method, is going to scale it down the rest of the way. So we have to thank our AI overlords for writing that for us, because it turns out I think that's going to work okay for us. And then we get the new version of that image from the data, and then we basically slap that back onto the screen. And so as long as we have that, we're good. But now the problem is this UI image I was telling you about, I wanted that to be a circle, right? And so let's go over to our friend AI here and see if we can say, how do I take a image in SwiftUI and crop it out to a circle, because that's a super cool way. Now usually there's something called quarter radius, and I have a feeling that that's what we're going to end up doing here as a mask. And usually that's how I do it in UIKit with UI images. I'd make a mask with a radius on it and put that mask over it, and that would do it. But let's see here, it's saying to make a clip shape of circle. Okay, well, I'd be jiggered here. I mean, really, if this really works here, I'll be pretty happy about this. So let's go here. Looks like I already have resizable. I know that on my image. Aspect ratio, content mode, fill. That would fill the entire content of it, from my recollection. Let's put this clip shape in and see what happens here. I think this may actually fix our thing here. So here we have the image, and then we're going to just say period, clip shape circle. Let's see here. Or actually, I wouldn't do it here. I would do it where I render the image, because I set the image, and then where I render it actually though is, or that is where I render it, isn't it? Yeah, I do image from new image. So we would say here, but we need just a single period. And I know that my indentions are getting kind of crazy here, so we're having a hard time seeing this. But let's see here. This should be the indention off that. Cannot find value of some view to type image. Insert has image. I should have to override that. I should not have to override that. Let me go take a look at what our AI overlords are saying again. There's the image. The image is closable. And then at this point in time, we should be able to add clip shape to it. Let's go back here and take a look what's going on here. This is our UI image here. That is the end of closing of it, of the definition of the image. Clip the shape cannot be assigned to a view, but it's not a view we're assigning it to. It's this image we're assigning it to. It would be like this. Well, what do we have then on the image? Clip? We have clipped. Oh, right there it is. Clip shape. What are you doing here? That's right. Why is Swift saying this? Let's see what this fix is. That's a typecast. That's a 4 typecast. That feels wrong. Spider senses are kicking in and going, yeah, that doesn't seem right. Oh, yeah, and then the warning's coming up saying, hey, that's better. I guess it's saying that it's not sure a UI image is going to come out of this, and that's why it's making nullable. That's what the as here is. We're saying, hey, this could possibly be null. We're not really sure. Maybe an image comes out of this. Let's check and see what's going on here. I do feel more comfortable with the nullable here. And the theory would be is if it all fails, then the image doesn't draw at all. But the app shouldn't crash. Well, nulls are bad. Nulls are bad because nulls have the ability to just crash out everything, right? In the world of React and web, we don't have to worry about this. Worst case scenario, you know, maybe you get a console error, but the website's probably going to still render. Nulls in mobile are game over sometimes. So we don't have to worry about these a lot. Let's go take a look here and see what happens when I select the profile picture now. It did not work. So we know that we have a defect now because what we did here did not work here. So if let UI image equal UI from the data, we get our UI image, then we're going to get new image, and we say new image is going to get us a image, but we're going to scale it down. Then we need to take the avatar. We need to get the data so we can send that. That's so we can save it to the database. This pointer is the save it to the database. And then we say avatar image equals equals this image from the UI image, because you make an image is like a container. It wraps around it. The UI image, and that we found that out from last stream, that, you know, a UI image really is just a wrapper around raw data, but it also gives like a view and all the things you could do with it. So the typecast though is not working for some reason, and that means our AI overloads are wrong here, because they're saying I could just take an image here, add it. Now I could say resizable. I mean, I could put this stuff in. I don't think this would make a difference though, folks. Well, it does come off the frame. All right. In defense of our AI overlords, they did give me different code than when I cut and pasted in. So let's just, I don't think adding the frame in is going to make a difference on this, folks. I still think this is going to be busted. And I think this is not the right way to do it. We'll just take the typecast out and see now if it still works. If we set the frame, does it need it? Nope, see, it's still mad about it. Hey, Dicey, welcome to the chat. First time chatter. I'm gonna do a follow real quick on Dicey. Yeah. So avatar data is only used for the database. So we have a mobile database called Couchbase Lite, and we're saving the image when the person hits the save button to that. So we need to make a pointer to the raw data so that we can have it in, it needs to be in a kind of like a separate place, and the easy way to do that is just make a pointer to it in state. So up above here we just kind of keep track of the avatar image and then the data associated with it, so that when we save to the database we have the raw bits for it, and that's the reason for it. We had all this working. The previous stream we had all this working. We wanted to do two things. One, we wanted to resize the image because when we found the image on disk, we found it was just way too big. It's like 4 megabytes. And honestly, 4 megabytes is just too big for me because honestly, the database shouldn't be over 4 megabytes, the entire database. We're saving images on the device temporarily, even just to sync to the server. That's just, you're going to fill up someone's phone really quick with 4 megabyte images. And for a user profile and expense report, do you really need 4 megabyte images? No, you don't. So we're going to shrink it down. So the shrinking down happens right here, where we basically get a new image from the current image, and then we wrote the scale extension method that scales it down to 300 by 300. But now the second thing we want to do is we want to make a circle around the image. You know, we want to have a circuit like how I used to do this in UIKit from my memory is you put a mask on it and you put a radius, a corner radius around it. And when you mask it, you could then clip it out basically, and it would make it a circle very quickly here. But for whatever reason, clip shape, which it sounds like this is the way to do it, is not being very happy of it. So we're going to fix this to say, and it's saying to bang it, which means to force it to basically switch to that. But I don't like that as an option. Now I could do an if let on this, and that probably would let us get away with this, right? If you just said if let image equals this, and then we could set, you know, avatar equal to that, and this would take away this type. But the other thing I'm noticing is that the image is not rendering anymore. So that means something in this is not working. And so either it's our resizing the image that's not working, or it's the clip circle that's not working. And so when we think about this, if we're going to try to figure this out, we should try to figure out if that's what's going on. So that's a thing I just thought of for a second, is that we really haven't proven that this resizing of the image is working, this new image here. So what we could do is this. Let's comment this code out. Let's try to draw a line in the sand, right? And so when you're trying to debug, I've changed 2 things, and I'm trying to figure out which of the 2 things is really breaking it. So the way to do that is just take away one of the 2 things, and then let's just make sure that the resizing is working. Because if the resizing is working, then we know for a fact it's our clip code that's breaking it. But if the resizing is, if the image still doesn't draw, then we know it's the resizing that's breaking it, and maybe also the clip code. So we resized it, and that's working, because that all we did now is take out the clip circle code. So we now know that it's not our clip circle code that's causing this. Instead, or we know it's not our resizing code. Instead, it's the clip circle that's causing this to happen. So we know that off the image here, this clip shape is not working the way we want it to work. Let's go take a look at the Googles. And let's just go search Google for this a little bit here. We might have to go look at the image here. You know, SwiftUI is the clip sending control shape by using the clip shape modifier. Circle shape will always make a circle for a large value. Oh, there's a Hacking from Swift article. We were just talking about Paul and how great his website is. So let's take a look here and see what Paul says. We're up image, avatar image, clip equals avatar image. I'm looking to see here. Can you send the image with all the methods? I think that's what we're trying to do here. Let's take a look and see. So it's saying right here, get our image, set the foreground, background, and then clip shape circle. That's what it's saying here, which is exactly the code we have. Because if we look at our code here for a second, what are we doing here? Well, we have to have some way of making the image, and where our image is coming from a UI image. And we know this code's working, right? Well, if we go look back at what the difference is that Paul's providing, is that he's saying once the image is created, then we have some extensions methods we're going to run on top of that that's going to change it. You'll see here he has the clip to shape. The problem is, I think, is that image is possibly nullable here. Is this nullable? No, if not new image. No, so new image would be, I think I see what you're getting at here. I think I see what you're getting at here. You're saying instead here do avatar image dot clip here, clip shape. You're saying do it off the avatar image after it's set? Is that what you're saying here? So you're saying something like this instead. Let's see if we can take this all out. Let's see if the compiler doesn't get mad at us.
But there's a lot more to life than that, and I realize that.
Yeah, so it's saying that it's not guaranteeing that the image is not null.
Overnight.
So if Let's try this real quick. Let's see if this is going to keep our avatar image if let. I would say Jetpack Compose this is a lot easier. The initializer or new body must not have an optional type, not image. And we still have our type here. Now it's saying the style is not used. If let image equals UI image, and we're saying here that's right. Initializer for condition binding must have an optional type, not image. Avatar image should be an image. A nullable image. Oh. Let's do this instead. This should still work. This is, I think we're going down the wrong path here because not assign value of some view to type image. Yeah, it's not that either. It should be frame and then it should be clip. This should be it. See, there's something weird here with this because this should work. And in fact, I bet you anything if we just take this clip out, let's just check this to see if it's clip image that's causing it, right? So if we look here, wait, you're commented out. CoPilot, you can't care about this anymore. Oh, interesting here. So now, if we go up, it's not even, it's pretty much anything that comes off this. I bet you if we were to comment this out, it would say the next image is the next method's a problem. And then we keep going up because it's really the concept of the image itself that's breaking here. So it's basically saying that image is not guaranteed to be an image. And that's why it's mad. But we know it's an image because if we just take these two things out and draw it, it draws. If we just do this again, the image should show up. Let's try this again, see what happens. So if we go back here, we take all that other code out, go select profile image. We select the waterfall this time, the image shows up. So we know the image is rendering. Currently no, because of the let new image equals image. You could delete the if statement because you already have the above statement if let image equals image. But I'm getting the image twice actually because I need it resized. And so the first, let's walk through our code real quick here and see maybe if we're all understanding this. So the first thing we do is the picker will give us raw data. And so what we do is we make a UI image from that raw data. But the raw data is really not what we want. So let's actually take this to-do out and we say now, well, let's keep that to-do because there may be a better, more efficient way to do this. So we're going to say here, resize the image to make it smaller. So now we have if let new image equals image to scale because we're not really sure if this is going to actually work, the scaling is going to work. And so if it doesn't work, or if it does work, then we want to go through and set the data so we can say that to the database based on this new image. Now that we have this new image, we want to set the pointer to the avatar image itself that we draw, and that's where we're setting it to the image here. So that's what we're saying. This is the real image here that is currently a nullable, and that's what should get replaced in draw. By the way, your mic is low and not balanced to center. I think you fixed that in the OBS. I have the same mic. It's actually a little bit more complicated than that, my friend. I wish it was that easy. And I do know it's not 100% centered. Yeah, considering the resizing might crash. Exactly right. It turns out it's not that easy because I'm running through a mixing board right now. And the mixing board, I have a Studios 24C, and this is where the real true problem's happening. And no matter what I try to do, and I'm not using OBS, I'm actually using Streamlabs. But even if I go into the properties and try to fix it there, it just does not work right. And so the only way I have that to fix it is I've got it on the board, a setting to try to fix it, but it's going to be always off by about, I don't know, 4 or 5 decibels. And I could try to screw with it a little bit more, but it usually goes really sad. I can jack my volume up, though, a lot more, but usually it's going to clip then. But give me a second. Hopefully we don't... I go to the mixing board here. Hopefully this doesn't start clipping. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. So I just panned it a little bit more towards the right, if I remember right, because that's where we're I'm looking at the audio coming in, the mic aux, and I'm just checking to see like how close they are to each other. Now I'm close to peaking here, so I can't go really too much louder. Thanks, man. I gotta say bye. Gotta go study. Yeah, go study, man. Absolutely. Go start writing some of your own code, man. Go check out code, read other people's code, and enjoy your day, no matter what. That's the most important thing, right? To go through and enjoy your day. Yeah, streaming is hard. I used to say that anybody that makes fun of streamers that says, "Oh, streaming is just a waste of time," while it's super easy. It's like, you are wrong. You are so wrong. You couldn't be more wrong than that, because it is super hard. You know what? Folks, we're changing in the wrong spot. We're chasing up the wrong tree here. What am I thinking here? This is just setting the value. Let's change it where it draws. Where it draws is up here. We should just be able to do clip image up here. Clip shape, and our shape is circle. We should just be able to do it up here. Still, the same mic seems overpowered. Do you use Cloud Filter? No, I don't. I use a... don't get sidetracked. It's not too bad. I don't use Cloud Track at all. I use a mixing board. So I run this into a... Is this a Mackie now? It's either a Mackie or Yamaha. I can't remember. It's a 4-channel board. So... Oh boy, this is a little complicated, actually. It doesn't... It goes into the board, and the board goes into a compressor and a dual 24-band EQ. That goes through the effects loop, that comes out, and then goes stereo into a set of Studio 24Cs. If you take a look in the back, I've got a bunch of guitars. I'm actually used to play in bands for years, and so I'm just running the same kind of audio setup I used to for like doing my home little studio. So really, it's the same concept. The bug is in the 24C. There's no doubt about it. The 24C for ProSonus. There's just a bug where no matter what you do, it will not take the stereo out from the board and do a perfect on both, because I go to channel 1 and 2, and then that gives me stereo, right? And then on the Mac I just say, hey, use both channels, and I should get a stereo feed from it, but I'm not. And that's really where the problem's coming in. And so I could tweak in the board a little bit, but it's usually not just 100% perfect here. So I usually really use this for streaming it for like meetings and stuff. Most people, unless they're like super pro nerds, won't even notice it. But it is a problem I eventually have to probably figure out. And I've been thinking about maybe getting a different sound card, but well, that is not what we wanted. That is not what we wanted at all. So now we have a problem where it's clipping off the top and bottom of our circle. And our circle we're resizing. And so let's see here. Scale to fit frame. I think the problem is we resize the image. No, we do size it to 300 here. We resize it automatically. Let's do this real quick. Let's take out the frame for it and see if this fixes it. I have the Pro FXC. I think that's the upgrade to the one I have. 1 second. Yeah, that's the upgrade. I've got the Mix 8. And it's fine. It's fine for what I do with it. Like I said, I've had it actually for quite a while, and I have a pair of electric drums. I used to actually run those through it. But it's, for what I need, it's been okay. I do need to fix it. There it is. That's what we wanted. We wanted the circle image in our profile. Look at that. Less than halfway through the stream, we've got a circle image inside of our profile. That's exactly what we want. Now when we click save it, let's go ahead and save this thing and see if it really did work. So one of our goals here was to go through and get the image in smaller. And so the only way to check if that really worked is we want to take a look at that pointer to the image that we have. And the only way to do that is to go into our logs and find where the database is stored again. So it's right here. So we're going to grab this whole entire path right here from our logs. We're going to copy that. What we're going to do then is go into Finder, and we're going to tell it to open that folder. And then we'll go look at that file, see how big it is. And the theory would be is that it should be considerably smaller. So let's take a look here. You'll see here that it's 1.4 megabytes. So I shrunk it down 1/4 of the size. If you get a cloud filter, so the cloud filter Mackie would be the best. Cloud filter, I think they're about $100, right? Am I right on that, Dicey? The cloud filter is about 100, and I think you can get those from Sweetwater, right? Is that the place to get them? I looked into this a while back, and I actually told my boss to get one. The cloud microphones, cloud filter. Let's just grab this from chat. I don't know if the universal control is working right today because I wasn't able to paste in the chat, but it seems to be working now. Yep, Sweetwater seems to be the place to get it. $149. Okay, so it's a little bit more expensive. Ooh, this is probably 2-channel, isn't it? Nope, this is not 2-channel. With variable independence, $379. Ooh, boy, that's a little bit more pricey. I think this is what I want instead, right? Yeah, this seems to be right. And this makes sense to me, right? So you have an XLR going in, and then on the out, are you going XLR out, or is it something else that goes out? Nope. So male and female, in and out. It just goes through. Very cool. It is, so this also amplify 25 dB of gain. Okay, so it is also amplify, giving you another 25 dB of gain. Totally makes sense. Okay. No, I'm going to order that. I'm not going to do it on stream, but I'm going to order that. Thank you for the suggestion, Ticey. Perfect. I'm going to do that. Let me put that on my list of things to do, though, here. So let me, I'll just keep that this link open here. Now remind me to do that a little bit later here. I'll go get one of those. Maybe by the Thursday stream or Friday stream we'll be in. I'll check Amazon and see if I can get 2-day shipping on that. Or usually I like to order from Sweetwater. They're pretty cool people. I've got a couple guitars to them in the past, and I think my board came from them even. Salespeople can be a little pushy sometimes, but they're trying to make a living too, so I can't really complain about that too much. Totally understand. Gotta make the pay the bill somehow, right? Well, man, we blew through that. So the issue was that I was changing the image in the wrong spot. This is just a pointer to the image, but the actual renderer of the image is right here. This is where we actually change it in the form itself. And so rather than trying to change it when we set the value of it, this is just getting it from the photo picker. We really don't want to do it there. That's just a state. We're setting state there. Instead, we should really change it when it renders during the rendering process. And that's going to give us a better, and that was it. I mean, we basically just changed it to where we're rendering. Now, the other thing that was happening was we were setting the frame. And the problem is we already have the frame set because we're scaling it to 300 by 300. So because we're scaling it down to 300 by 300 before we make the image, it's already set to 300 by 300. So adding a frame on top of it is just going to start clipping it more than we want to clip it. And so we took out the frame that we had in there, and that basically got rid of the clipping from the top and the bottom. Now, if we were resizing this, once again, dynamically, we put that back in, but we already are resizing it because we want to save it resized. We also want to keep it from being a memory too big, quite honestly, right? The theory is that these should fall out of scope pretty quickly because of SwiftUI. And so that way we're not keeping these in memory at a really super large size very long. And that'll make the total running size of our app better in the long term, right? We want to keep this down in size. So when this view gets popped off, right? If we go think about that for a second, the minute that this view gets popped off the stack. So if we go here and take a look here, we've got this. We're selecting our image. We select this one here. We've now resized it. It went from 4 to 1 megabyte. If we go back one, we click save and go back. The theory would be it's off the stack now, and that image now should just be that one image that's much smaller. So when we go to the user profile and we scale that image down, it's not taking a lot of memory. So we're actually saving ourselves because 4 megabytes versus 1 megabyte, that's 3 megabytes of memory. I mean, that's a considerable chunk of memory that you're wasting just because you have an image that isn't scaled to what your application needs. So I think that this is a good optimization to have done. Now, we have a couple different problems to work out, but we're not going to work those out today, I think, because here's once again the problem, right? If you start to try to solve all your world's problems, you'll never get off a single screen, and that's a problem. We want to get off this screen eventually and be able to get some more features working in the app, but we want to keep to-do notes to say, hey, look, this is not optimized whatsoever. So what we need to do is put some a to-do reminder to go through and fix a couple things. So let me show you a problem that we're going to run into. And this is up to you whether or not you want to live with it, but I can't. When we look at this, what's happening is every time we save the image, we're still having the old attachment available. Okay? And that's not something we want. We want, if we reset the person to a new image, the old image should get deleted. Right? And so that's a problem. What is this app you're building? I'm new here. It is an expense reporter app. So the goal of this app is to be able to do your expense report. Company says that once a month you get free internet and you maybe get your cell phone, part of your cell phone bill paid. So you do an expense report, you put in the dollar amounts to a charge code, we call it, that gets charged to a department, and then they give you monies for that. And that seems like it's pretty great. If you're a person that speaks out in public, maybe you have to do some travel, so you'll put some airfare in and your hotel room and a bunch of other stuff, and then the company reimburses you for all that hard cold cash. Realistic enterprise application. I've built this a couple times in my career, and so it's one of the things when I'm trying to play around with new frameworks for building apps. I already know how this workflow works. Because of that, I don't have to think about this all that hard. I'm not thinking about the workflow. I'm thinking about learning SwiftUI and all the cool things I want to do with it. And it takes away the two parts of the process, the workflow of the app from the actual code and technology around building it. I don't want to focus on workflow. I want to focus on building and all the cool stuff with that. So I know all the challenges because I've built this before that I'm probably going to run into. And that makes it a little interesting on stream, but also you're trying to use AI to help us and see where the AI skill sits in mobile development. So far, not great. It helps us a little bit, but usually it's not been great because it has been updated since 2001 or 2021, excuse me. So the problem is that my image, it doesn't delete the old image. So we would need to do that in our repository here. So when we save a user profile, we have the problem of, or if the image is already set, we got to kind of delete it. So let's do a to-do here, and we'll handle that later. We'll put a to-do, nuke existing image from the profile. So we don't have old images laying around. Wasting space. We don't want to waste space. And so that's a problem that we're having right here is that the old image is still staying on the disk because we just decided to do one, but we don't say get rid of the old one. When the pointer changes, it just changes the pointer reference, but we don't tell the blob to delete itself, and that's a problem. Now, it's a problem for a future errand and a future stream because I still want to get this. Try PHIND. It's a developer AI search engine. I've never heard of this before. Let's see here. Let's try this. We'll keep this. Let's keep this open next to our AI overlord ChatGPT here, and we'll see how well this works. Thanks, Dicey, for the suggestion. We'll see what happens here, and see how well it does in the next challenge that we have. Let's take a look and see where we are right now. So if we think about it here, we've got about a little less than an hour left on the stream. I've got my user profile now where it saves as a circle picture. That's what I wanted. It's smaller. That's what I wanted. I can set the profile picture. That's what I wanted. But when I set the profile picture and I go back, it doesn't draw here. And that's on purpose because technically speaking, I don't get the image. And if I don't get the image, then how does it know how to draw it, right? So that's not necessarily a bug in my app. I just haven't written that code yet. So I think that's our next adventure. So we can say goodbye to the employee profile view. And we're going to go back and focus on main view. Let's also close UI image. And let's see. I don't think we need navigation service open. And I don't think we need that open. And navigation menu, I don't think we need that anymore. Or authentication service. This is not good though. What do we got here? Casual users fine, but never use. Consider replacing it with that. That is not true. We use it right here. You are wrong. Xcode. Xcode. We're on the beta. I should probably also say we are on Xcode and iOS beta. So if we go about this Mac, we're on Simona 14.0 because we also want to play with the Pro Vision eventually. So because of that, I have this on a separate machine from what I'm streaming on. So this is I'm using a capture card off of a laptop. That's running the latest beta of Xcode 5.2, and we are running macOS beta 14 for the latest version of macOS. But yeah, I think what we want to do now is we can go back and fix the image problem. You know, we're not shipping this app to production anytime soon, so we can fiddle with that in a future stream. But really, if we want to see this full process work in its happy path, which I think is important because I'm going to feel really good about myself if I can get that happy path working, we want the image to show up here. Okay, and that means if the image shows up here, by theory, we should be able to fix it so it shows up here if it's already set. But since we have no code to do that, we can't do that yet. So I think we're going to fix it first here. We're going to fix it, I'll load it on the screen so we can see that little image. Now, it's pretty small there, and I don't think it's going to show up that well, so we probably need to make it a little bit bigger. I think right now it's 30 by 30, to be honest. That's probably not big enough. We probably want that to be like 100 by 100. And we're taking some inspiration from from Mac. If you look here, this is my Apple ID. You'll see here that's my picture of me with my eyes closed, because I'll just set up this laptop real quick. But if you look here, the image is a little bit bigger, and it takes up almost the full size of the cell with our here. And this is SwiftUI. We know that this is written in SwiftUI because Apple told us that that was one of the big things, was that the preferences were completely rewritten in SwiftUI. So I think we need to make that image a little bit bigger because you can see here it's not even going up to the top of Craig and the bottom of the email there. So we know that's a little bit. We maybe 64 pixels by 64 pixels is probably the better solution, or 128. I'm not sure which. Let's go find out. Let's go back and take a look at main view here. So here's our code for rendering that cell. So you see here that we have a navigation link because we want to go to the user profile. Somebody clicks on it. And right now we just have a hard-coded the person circle. And you'll see here we don't even tell it the size of it. So it's whatever person circle fill is. It's just going to render to that size. And that's not what we want. So we have right now, we should be getting the authenticated user. Because we get that from right here, the user profile repository. So that's going to be our problem. So our problem is the repository is only keeping the authenticated user, but not the image. So there's two different fixes for this, right? If we go back to employee repository, we think about this for a second. In the previous stream, what we did was we made a decision that keeping the image in the document is a bad idea because of how we save it to the database and how we encode. So we don't want to do that. We talked about, there's a couple different ways we could fix that. And one of the ways we talked about, which is what we ended up doing, is making something called a data access object. It's just a wrapper, a DAO. It's a wrapper around the employee that adds the employee image. And by doing this, we can still do all of our serialization magic. But because we also have this image data, we don't have to necessarily worry about that. Inside the employee, we can track that separately. And in the database, we're going to save that separately. So we're kind of okay with this. So this gives us the ability to unmuddy our employee, but also still have this image data available to us. So if we think about this for a second, our problem, though, is that when we changed that code and we took in this, if we go to save here and we take this DAO in, the problem is that we still are just setting the employee to the user to the authenticated employee. And so we probably want to change that to be the DAO. Because if we change it to the DAO, well, then now we not only do we have the employee, but we have the image. And we're already getting that. We're already setting it here. So if we think about that for a second, that's a pretty quick win. Now, the problem is we're going to break all of our code because all of our code assumes that the repository is keeping a track of an employee object instead of a DAO. I think that's worth the break, right? So let's go through, first of all, and start fixing this. Our end goal is we want this to be a DAO. So we're going to change that right away, knowing this is going to break everything in the universe. And now we have to find every place we just broke it and fix it. So first, let's take a look here at load. So here, this is pretty easy. Well, let's go back to that after, because that's the thing that I wanted to fix in the first place. Let's go through save and try to fix this here. So mutable doc is going to be wrong because when we say user profile, this could be the user profile DAO. So let's refactor that. Let's rename this so we're pretty clear on this. let's see here. So employee user profile equals authenticated employee. Where's authenticated? Oh, authenticated employee is coming from up here. So we're going to say this is the user kit. So let's refactor this so we can keep track of all this stuff. We're going to rename this to say user profile DAO, data access object. And then that should give us the DAO. So now the DAO, though, we want to say that this is the employee.email address. That's pretty cool. DAO stands for data access object. And in the world of Android, this is a really popular pattern. There's two usually, and when we talk about databases and database access and transforming data, you have a DAO, database access object. You have a DTO, a database or data transformation object. If I want to transform the data, usually like using like we call it an adapter pattern, DTOs are really popular. And back in APIs, oh boy, they use DTOs all over the place. Usually they'll get something from the database, but they get it from a couple different spots, and then they have to transform that data into something that you need back in REST, in your REST API in like JSON format. So they'll transform that into something that the actual front-end UI wants to see. But it's probably not stored that way in the back end. They usually have to do some transformation, some mingling of things to make it in the format that you want for your UI. DTOs are really popular for that. DAOs are kind of the exact opposite. They're saying, hey, I want to access some data, but the format that we save them may be different than what we need over here in the UI or how we're working with it. We can do a little bit of magic sauce here in order to make it in a format that we want to work with without destroying our models. Our purest of if you're getting to domain-driven development, keep your domain objects pure, right? Let the DAOs handle the reshaping of things as needed. And domain-driven development is a whole other topic, and I'm not doing perfect domain-driven development here either, right? Because I'm really trying to play with SwiftUI, and I'm spending less time thinking about enterprise patterns and stuff. I'm trying my best to make this a real-world app without digging too deep into that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you can't. Those patterns solve so many problems. You don't want to completely go away from them. Just because you're trying to make this quicker, write the app quicker, right? So if we go here, I think we fixed the employee here, and then we save the employee, and then that should work. So when we save here, we should be setting, so we save here, we're getting a new employee in, we're setting the encoder, we're going to encode the employee, because we need to save it to the database. We're going to make sure that we can get the DAO from the authenticated employee. And once we get it, we need to set the existing options and then save anything else. So let's see here. So we save the image from the DAO. We go here, and then we save it. So the only problem I have, so that's from employee DAO. So we're doing that from employee DAO. We're doing all this stuff, and then we try to save. And if we try to save, the problem though is once we save it, we need to set the employee DAO back to the authenticated DAO, because we know now that it's saved to the database. So we know that that new image is saved. So here we need to say exactly what CoPilot just said. CoPilot is popping up here because I have this plugin installed. This is the CoPilot for Xcode. And it's saying, hey, after you get done with this, you need to reset the authenticated user to the employee one. It's absolutely correct. That's what we need to do. So this will mean that now we have the image also with it. And that's exactly what we're looking for. All right. So now here we have a problem is that here when we pull from the database, we need to be able to say employee equals this. Let's see. Or we're saying user profile. So where is this coming from? Let's take a look here. Where is user profile coming from? Let's see here. Oh, user profile is what we're getting from the database. So we're decoding the employee. And we're saying, hey, set it to, but this would be also the same thing. We would say here, employee equals user profile, because user profile should be an employee. Now, the only problem now is we have to get that blob from it. No, where's my example how to do this? I have an example how to do this, because this is actually some, oh, one second. What's going on here? It's the 4th of July, and I just got a text message from my wife, so I'm just making sure that she is not yelling at me about not doing something that I'm supposed to be doing. I told her I was streaming for a couple hours and that I did finish the lawn, so let me just make sure she's not freaking out here. Okay. Well, She does need some help with something, but we can go a little bit longer here before she needs that help. We'll try to get this done, and then maybe we'll go help my wife. Let's see if we can't get this figured out, though, right? So if we think about this for a second, this is all correct now. We fixed our code here, but I think anybody that looks at this is also going to be busted, because right here, authenticated employee, this is wrong, because it would be authenticated employee dot employee. So that will fix that. And I think there's going to be a couple other spots. Before we start going through and getting the image out, let's try to fix anywhere else our code is broken. So let's just do a quick build and see if there's anything else. Yeah, I knew this was going to happen. So here we go. Employee equals dot employee. That will fix that. Let's try to build. Instead of trying to run, let's just try to build and see if there's anything else that we want to build for running. Let's see if it comes up with any other errors. So it does. This is going to be nullable, and let's try to build again. Let's see if we can get this fixed. It's still, man. Fix. Put the question mark in the right spot. Story of my life. So where's this now at? We have the same problem here, because we wrapped around the employer and the DAO. So we gotta go through and fix that. So now we should have happy path. In fact, before we start screwing around with getting the image loaded, we should probably just make sure this whole thing works, that we didn't break the universe. Because even though the Xcode says there's no errors, it doesn't mean that this is a pretty big prefactor. It doesn't mean that I just didn't break everything. In the sense that I almost want to delete the database and start out again, because it's such a big change. Nope. Let's see here. We do have another bug. All right, let's see what's going on here. Why is it mad? Couldn't you also... oh, I have an extra question mark. I only need the question mark here, not in the other spot. I'm so used to Kotlin. In Kotlin, you just do a if-let statement, and you do the period, and it automatically unboxes it. It's a different syntax for it in Jetpack Compose over on Android, and you get used to that. It's kind of nice. It's very similar to our if guard in Swift UI in Swift, but it's different enough that I kind of prefer the latter. So let's see here. So one, boy, my first name is no longer showing up. That's bad. And none of my stuff's showing up here. So we've broken something really bad here. Let's see here. What's it meant about here? Navigation can be constructed because it has no accessible. Okay, that's just some kind of beta bug with Xcode, because that code I didn't change. So let's see here. We know that. Let's first find out whether or not the load is working, because obviously we did something and now the data is no longer working. So let's go find the two different paths that this could go wrong on us. It can go wrong here or here, and one of these two is probably busted. Let's figure out which. The other thing that could be happening is that this is nullable. It may not ever be set to a new one, and that may be the real root of the problem here, because we only set it to a new one here. We would have to say that's what's going on. We would say here, authenticated employee equals new. There's no new in Swift. Good lord. This is a employee DAO. We'd say employee equals user profile. That should probably solve the problem. And so else, this also needs to be fixed. So else statement is also wrong. We'd say authenticated employee equals employee DAO, and then we'd say our employee equals, and we would take this code down here. This should fix that problem. Doesn't solve my other problem, but we're getting there, right? Let's fix one fire at a time here. So cannot find employee. Well, obviously I cut and pasted something twice. That's definitely gonna happen when you cut and paste. Let's see here. That navigation view error that's coming up randomly, I think that's an Xcode bug. What's it mad about now? Oh, I put the breakpoint in. Duh. It's not mad about anything. I wanted to check the value and see if it was set. Okay, Xcode, I'm sorry for being negative against you. You're still cool. Let's just be friends. User profile is getting set here. So we are unable to read in this. Why can't we read in the string? Because we're out of scope, aren't we? Because we put it here, it'll probably start taking scope out. So authenticated employee, let's go to self here and see if so we're getting, yeah, so it is currently nil. Well, that's not good. It should not be nil because we just set it here. And we're hitting this line right here. User profile. So it's acting like it didn't get the user from the database for some reason. So we have the email address right here. Yeah, I'm being negative against Xcode. I shouldn't do that because it's kind of mean, right? So I got data from the database right here. This is the data. So I know that I got a record back. So then I said user profile, try to encode this from the employee. And this is where it went wrong. It tried to decode the data, and the data did not come back. Because if it did, we would have gotten to this stack. Instead, we got to no user found, delete, breakpoint. So we should have got to this happy path because we should have got the data. The data should allow us to turn it into an employee, and it didn't let us turn it into an employee. So the question is, why didn't the data let us turn it into an employee? Still a couple different things here. Let's make sure that when we save, we're saving this properly. So let's go through here, just make sure here we save a document. It's a mutable document. We get the, let's go through our save code. We encode the employee out of the DAO. That makes sense. We get JSON string for it. That also seems to make sense. We find the existing document for the database by doing this. We make a new mutable document. We don't have it from the database. We're just saying we're going to mutate this as this document. It should merge in. We try to set the JSON that we got from encoding the actual employee here to a JSON string. And that data is coming from here, where we basically just try to grab it out. All right. So this would mean we have to make sure our form is set in the employee right, which I think it was because I was working before. And then we basically just make sure that we can make a DAO from this. So let's see here. This is, I think, where the problem is. If let guard. Nope, we're actually trying to set the a pointer to the authenticated employee because this could be nullable. That's the reason why we do this. Because it could be nullable, we basically try to get a pointer to it, make sure it's not null. If it's not, neither one of these are, if one of these two are null, then we can't save the employee. That makes sense. Otherwise, we're going to say, hey, let's make a mutable document. We're going to take the email address from the employee because that's what we use for the ID of the document or the key in the database. We try to set the JSON based on what we just done, and then we go through as we try to find the collection of where we're going to store the data. We need to get an image from that blob that we have, and this is to do where we'd have to delete the existing one, right? So this would be to do delete existing image if there is one. That's where we'd have to do that to fix it, by the way. We did it up here, but this is where we would do it. So we set the blob, we save the document, and then we set the employee to be true. So that all should work. So then load, so you can take a user ID. We should get a document from the database for the user ID. We did that. Then we get data from it, and we get data, and then decoding is what's not working. So let's see the document itself before we get to data. So is our app still running? It seems like it's running. Nope. Let's run again. Not sure what that navigation view is really PO'd about. All right, so let's see here. Let's take a look at our document. So we look at our document. There should be a collection inside of it. We may be able to go down here and see it instead. We can. So let's just move this window up a little bit bigger so we can see it. Let's go through the process of like trying to figure out what's going on here. So if we were to go to the implementation, we'd find that there's a dictionary. And inside the dictionary actually is all the fields inside of the document. Now that's really interesting. This would just be that's just the collection, but the implementation of the document should have the actual dictionary, and this is a key value pair of the, but it's like it's empty. We should have more than this inside of the actual document itself. But when I look at the code, or I look at what's in memory, there's nothing there. That would point to the database not having that record for that employee. Huh. Okay, that's interesting. Let's go back to our database here. Go to folder. Why is it not going to that folder? Let's find the value for the database again because I don't have it in the clipboard right here. Let's go see what's going on here because I have a feeling, refactored, but it shouldn't have changed the existing database. We could just do the database, try to save a record and make sure that that's not what's causing it, right? Which is probably not a bad idea. Let's just make sure. Okay, we still have the 2 images. That's a good sign. Maybe you should do breakpoint below 29 to check the data. Yeah, the data's coming back. So if I look at it, but the problem is if I just hit next here, we'll be able to see data, right? Data is definitely set to 427 bytes. But the problem is data is not coming back with anything. It's basically just be data is going to be basically kind of almost nothing because the fact that the document collection is empty. Because the document collection is empty, we're really bad. The implementation of this should have a dictionary. Inside this dictionary, it should have 9 keys. I think 8 keys. And there's not 8 keys there, which means it doesn't matter if we get the data. If we don't have keys here, it can't export it out to data. So the real problem is that this document that's coming back here is what's broken. The document's not coming back right. We know that user ID is set here to this example user. So we know that this user is right. So what it's telling us is that there's no user in the database right now for this user. But I know there is because we saved it. That means that either the save code corrupted the value, right? Or something else is going wrong. But the only way to know that is we got to go look at our friend the database. And the only way to do that is we have to kind of stop the application from running so we don't corrupt the database by accident. We're going to make a copy of the database and we're going to put it on our desktop where we currently have it. And then we're going to delete our current example of it and put the new one on there. So let's delete this. Paste item. And then let's go take a look at this inside of VS Code to just make sure that the database record still exists. So we're going to go here. And we're going to say open database. This should give us the database explorer. We should be able to go into default scope and collection. We should see that here's our user example. And this document works. Now if we get the full document, this is what it looks like in JSON. So we have Craig. His email address is definitely this. This is right. And this is a new hash to it. That's working. The database is not, or at least the record's not corrupted in the database because I can see that value. We don't need an index on it because of the fact that we're using the ID. Because of the ID, we shouldn't need that. So database manager collection document ID user IDs. For some reason here, this is not good. We should be seeing more than that. Of course, because then now when we go into the form to save it, try to think here for a second. Wait. is the root of this problem is the loading of it. No, it's not. It's not. That's not the problem. Let's do this. Because we've changed so much, I'm a big fan of just making sure we can start over and make sure the flow works. So let's do this real quick. I'm just going to remove the app from the phone. We're going to delete it, and we're going to put a new build out. This means we should have no user whatsoever. When we sign in right now, there should be no profile set. That's normally how the app works. Then we go in here, and we set a first name and last name. So we can set Craig F and developer. Probably spelled developer right. I don't remember how to spell Craig's last name. What we should probably do is put their email address and the personal information as a text field only. That way we can see it. I'm just going to put them in hardware technology exclude and click save. Oh, now Cracker is showing up. Was it a state problem? Because this is actually working now. And if I just change this to LeBeau, for example, and save, it's updating. Okay, that's good. That means our code it's not busted. Now profile's not loading because, well, this is a new app, so we have to give it permission because we don't have the code to load the image yet. So this is not updated yet. In fact, we should probably, the database now have 3 pointers because every time we do this, we're not deleting the existing image and we're creating a new one. So every time we do that, we'll make a raw one. I have that to do to fix this later. But really now that this is working, I want that image to change. So that's what I want to do. So the good news is I think we just had a state problem with the app code running, and all we had to do is just delete the app, restart it, and make sure, because we did make some changes here, and it's very possible that probably caused it. Worst case scenario, reboot, right? That's the whole theory behind development, or really anything technology, right? Did you reboot it? No, I did not, sir. Okay, well that probably will fix it. Does it? Sometimes. Let's take a look here. So now that we're loading the employee, what I need to do is find my example code I have for loading a blob, because that's the trick of this, is that the blob comes separately and it doesn't come back from the document. That I do remember. And I do remember it's not, I don't have it in my ice cream example. Let me take a look here, see if I have it. So here's the whole thing, folks. Like usually as a developer, if you have some code laying around that already does this, you go grab that code, right? Because you don't have to remember everything. As long as you have an app that you've already wrote that has a code, you can go look at that code as like a reference, like how do I do this? So let's see here. There is, that's not where it is. I'm looking at some of my other code that you probably can't see because it's off screen. But let's see here. That is what? Is this loading? Fetch record. So fetch record, we say how do we get the blob out of it though? I think we get yeah, we just get it out of the document. So we should have a document, and then there's a key. So we have a document back here. So if we look at this document here, right, there should be the ability then right here. So we should still have the document, right? Document. We do. All right. If it contains key, the key is, what did we save this as? Blob key. There's a reason why we made a variable for it in the previous string. If it contains blob key, then we can set the image, right? We want to get the image out. Whoa, let's see here. If key exists, the CoPilot's writing some code here. I just want to see if this is right. if it contains key. No, that's wrong. This is right though. We would say if let blob equal document blob for key blob key. Wait, what are we saying here? Oh, I probably have an extra squiggly bracket here. So we're going to try to use our AI overloads here to write some code for us. Let's see how bad it is. Extra trailing closer passed in. So we're saying if document contains key. Then we're going to come in. We're going to say if let blob is a blob. What is it saying here? I don't think we need this in. And blob could be nullable. Blob data, I guess, or blob raw. And then we'll say blob raw. Because this is gonna unbox it, right? Or unwrap it, I think. Unbox is a C# term. Unwrap is a Swift term. Gotta remember these. So let's see here. Initializer condition must have an optional type, not blob. Blob key is an ID. It is. It is a string value of a right here. Blob key just set to employee profile image. And so when we look at the JSON document, what will happen is that the encoded value for it. Oop. Wait, where's our other Visual Studio Code window? Did I accidentally close it by accident? I did. I'm a fool. Open folder. Desktop. If I open the database real quick here, I want to answer this question. So let's see here. This should be a Couchbase Lite database. So we should be able to say, right click and say open database. Why is it not seeing this as a database now? Open database. There we go. If we go look at the Craig's record here. Get document. Just take a look at it. What we should see is that right here is the employee profile image. So that's the key, and then the value of this key. So this is like a key pair, and we should be able to do where is it? View and then format document, so we can see this better. What ends up happening is that the image, when we save it to the database, it saves a pointer to it. It just says here's the length of it, here's the hash code for it, the hash of it, the file. Here's the type of image it is, and then we're going to just tell internally in the database, we have to tell it that this is a type blob. It's raw binary data. And so this is the key that we use to get it out of the key value is right here. It's like a property. But we have to set it to something, and that's what makes the pointer to the raw file. If we go back look at our desktop, that raw file is stored in this attachment folder, and then the key right here, if we take a look at this ESN. So if you just take the SHA minus plus out, the rest of it should equal the document right here. As you see here, plus ESN and blah, 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 blah. That is the same hash code, right? And that's how it can kind of confirm it and find the file on the file system. That's the attachment. We don't want to put it directly in a JSON document because that's going to make the JSON document, like querying documents, really slow. We want to make an attachment so we can go get it to disk when we need it, but it's not going to hurt our indexing performance. And the back end, Couchbase Lite uses SQLite. And so obviously this is stored in the back end as raw data, but we could hit some performance problems if we try to encode that the wrong way. So that's right. So now let's see here. So let's see what happening here. So we're going to say blob equals blob raw because this could be nullable, right? Nullable. Document blob. Usually it gives me the definition. I think this is nullable. It is nullable. So we do need to unwrap that. So we see here, if let prob. No, that should get it unwrapped. We don't need a double wrapping here. What am I doing here? I'm unwrapping it twice. That's the problem. We don't need to do it here. Now we can just say, hey, if data blob content, this should be this if. Let's try to break these ifs down and see if that's what's going on. We have an extra if. That's what's going on. So we're going to say, hey, if the document contains this blob key, then we know that there's an image associated with it. Then we're going to say, hey, let's go get the image from the blob, from that document. Then we're going to say, hey, if there's data in this, so if we can convert that blob data, because it's binary data in a Couchbase Lite format, but we need it in the data format, and that kind of confirms to the NS data. I want to say the Swift data element and the NS data are the exact same thing, and I think it may even be a protocol inheritance. I don't remember, but I know in the old school way of doing this was NS data, and I know the new way of doing it is with data. So then we just get the data of the blob contents, right? And then now if we can get that data, we can just say the image data is set to this. And if we go back, our DAO should take in image data, which is raw data. And then that should be able to convert the raw data into an image, because we know that we can make a UI image out of raw data. And then from UI image, we can make an image. I know that sounds confusing, but that's how SwiftUI works. So you take a UI image and you wrap that around an image. So you can't just use a regular image if you're going to have raw data. You have to make a UI image, which will make the specific image, and the image then is a wrapper with a view around it. So we should now have the DAO. And as long as we get the DAO, what we should be able to do here in main view now is saying, hey, this is where it's going to get kind of tricky. We have to say if... user profile repository, and we're then going to say authenticated employee, because we don't know if that employee is authenticated. And then if we have that is empty, and we're going to do the opposite of that, so we're going to do a not of that. And I don't remember, I think I could just do this in Swift. I'm getting into some Kotlin syntax here, folks. And then we can say else, just show the image there. Okay. I think this will work. And so if the image is not empty, then what we can do, we can say if let UI image equal this right here. And then we can say if we got a UI image, then we can just say image of UI image. And the only thing we want to, the image should be automatically, now I think about it, should be circleized. It should be set. No, it's not set circleized. Oh, what do we got here? Replace. They're saying it's easier to read if you just check it to be nil versus just saying is empty. Why is it mad now? Wait, what? Okay, no, that seems... Spidey sense is already going off that that's... We went too far to the sun here. We got too close to the sun. That can't be the right syntax for this. But that's not what we want. We want not equals to nil. We want the opposite. Well, why am I fighting this? If it's empty, we put this code in. If it's not empty, we run this code. Let's not fight it. And then we just need... Wait. Is this the closing for this if? That is. So we are missing a... This is the close for the alpha, right? I have a feeling we're missing a squiggly bracket. Now it's saying what? Test for not equal to nil instead. Optional blue cannot be used as a boolean. Test for not equals nil instead. Oh, come on. Really, Xcode? Missing and 29 of your statement. Let's see a 29 here. Missing parentheses. 29 of your statement on the question mark. It must be here. He's talking about, but that's line there 34. Nope. You shouldn't need parentheses in the if statement. Right? I want to say our Swift overloads don't require parentheses anymore, right? Pretty sure that's true. You only need parentheses if you want to force a certain order of operations, I thought. Or am I thinking of Kotlin here? And I've got that backwards. So far, it's not complaining about that line anymore. What it's complaining about down here is that let UI image equal UI image. This code's just wrong. Let me fix this. And we have to say, I think it's data. Yeah. So that will fix that. And then if we basically have a UI image from the, so we have to make a UI image first. So we say a UI image, take in some data from this. So if this is, oh crap, no, I've done it backwards again. I have this backwards, yeah, again. So it should be this because Xcode keeps telling me to change the if check. So it should be this. So if the employee data is not equal to nil, that means we have some employee data. So then what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, let's go get a UI image from that. The optional value data must be unwrapped. Oh, what's this? Guys, I'm trying too hard here. I'm trying too hard. We're just doing this wrong. It should be this. Just get a pointer to if let data equals this data image, right? We just pull the data from it because we don't care about anything else. We're just trying to get the image, right? So we say if let data, then we're going to say, now we know that that data is cool and we have a pointer to the data. We don't even need this user profile anymore here. We can just call that data pointer. Now we can just say data here, and then we can just say load our image, right? We may, I don't think we have to, no, we're unwrapping the image here because we have a let statement here. And so then what's it saying here? Oh, we have to tell it the property of the constructor to use. Aha! We're almost there, folks. Stick with me here. I think we've got this just about. Boy, this would be a nice way to put a topping on the ice cream cone here if this all works. Put a little chocolate sprinkles and a little whipped cream on top of that, maybe. A little cherry on top. The only problem is I'm pretty sure what's going to happen here now is the image is going to load full size, which is 200 by 200. Is that the employee profile there? What did we take this down to? And that's probably not going to be right. I'm pretty sure we sized this down to a 300 by 300. That's going to be way too big for us. Way too big. So we need to say resizable, and then we need to also say we'll frame this puppy into width of 100. Let's try 64. See, 64 works. Height of 64. And then let's clip this. Let's clip shape, and we want to go back to circle again. We should probably, we're writing that code twice, right? So we may want to be thinking about some way of refactoring this so that we can just say, hey, maybe we have an extension method that just gives us this in circle format. We say image as circle or something like that, and it figures out how to do that. We'll see. But I think this code's going to work. And if it does, I think we can just jump up, clap our hands, and stomp our feet because that's going to be pretty cool. So let's see here. Set an image. There's our waterfall, folks. There's our waterfall image we're looking for. And honestly, I do like that size at 64. I think 64 is probably good. If we had a real image there, it'd probably look better. Let's try that. Actually, let's go to. Let's just try looking for some images real quick here. So let's go to let's steal an image from the internet because that's how you obviously do this, right? We'll say golden retriever. For those of you that don't know me, I have 3 golden retrievers, and I love. Well, we've got technically speaking 2 golden retrievers and a mutt, but then my in-laws also have 2 golden retrievers. So technically speaking, on our property that we have here, our 11 acres, we technically speaking have 5 dogs running around between the 2 families. Let's see here. I do like golden retriever. Whose picture do I like the most here? I want something cute. That dog's pretty cute. Let's just right click here. Can we not right click and save anymore? Oh, that's search inside the image. No, I just want to see that image. Did I give it the ability to download the image? Inside of Safari anymore? Is this a Google thing? I see where you can do it. I used to, like an Android, I do this all the time. When I'm looking for some sample images, I just open up Chrome, I Google search, and I just save a couple of them to my photo slide, and then that will fix it. I guess maybe you have to visit the website and then right click. Do I hold long? There it is. You have to hold long on the mouse. You can't right click. Save the photos. That looks like it's a good picture. Now what we should be able to do is go back to our app and change our picture to the golden retriever. There's our golden retriever picture. Ooh, that's not a good center though. And we have another problem where we just changed the picture, but it didn't update. Oh, I didn't click the save button. Click the save button. Save. It did update to the golden retriever. Okay, it does work. I think you expand it and then hit the share, center share button maybe. Yeah, I think I got it, but now, I mean, that image is just not an image that is well for us, I guess, in some sense, right? Because the fact that it wasn't a center image, the dog's off to the side, I'm basically just cropping out the circle, so it's never going to be 100% perfect. So the selfie, we're gonna have to take into account that if this picture is longer than it is wider, and we make the circle around it, it's probably not going to show the way we want it to show. But let's set the flowers here. Just make sure that those center pretty decently. Let's click save. Go back, and flowers are kind of picturing. This is probably okay for our current first feature. The only other thing we have to fix, which I think we're going to run out of time here to fix, is that when we select a user, we don't have the profile that's currently set here. And that's not cool, right? We should probably say, hey, we know who this current user is. Let's give them the current image, and then they can select a profile image if they want to change it. I don't think that's a lot of code to write. So maybe we do that, and then I'll go and help my wife do what she wants me to do, which I don't know right now, but I'm sure I'll find out here. So let's go back here and take a look at our thing here and see if we can fix this final part here. So if we look here, right here's our image set, right? And so what's happening here, we're saying if we have data, so that's only if they get the image, but when we draw it, we're drawing it based on what? So here's the part. Nope, we went past the drawing already. That's changing it. It's right here. If avatar image, where's avatar image coming from? It's coming from here. Well, how do we set the user? Let's check that real quick. Okay, we are getting it from state variables. State variables are set here. Okay. So there must be a method that I have on a peer that's setting these, right? On a peer load state. Here we go. Aaron already thought of this. Look at this. We've got a state method. We can just fix this. So we can say if let data equal employee repository dot authenticated employee dot image data, then we want to go through and say the avatar data equals data, and that should be all the magic that needs to happen, right? Because the data should get set. If the data is set, then the image should automatically load. Do I have to load the image is the next question. So let's go see here what goes on here. If let avatar image show it. So I do need to load the image also, because it's checking the image to see whether or not I can draw it. So then we'd say, okay, that's Coolio. So we can fix this. Now that we have the data, then we can just say an avatar image. I think it's a type of image, right? Let's go check that type. It's type of image. So we have to do the double wrapper, right? So we then say if let UI image equal UI image data of the avatar data, and then now we can say avatar image equals UI image. And I think this is where we're going to have to do the resizable. Oh wait, we do that already. When we tell the image how to draw when we draw it, right? We don't have to set all the sizing stuff because it does it here when we check if the image is available, and then if it is, we draw it to its resizable fit and clip. So we shouldn't have to do anything but just set the image. Let's see here. Why is it mapped now? Avatar data equals this. Oh, no. Data. We know data's already good. We know that this assignment should work. And so by theory, this should work. And then let's see. Cannot assign type of UI image to image equals, image with UI image equals to this. That's the proper API. Ha! No compile errors. No compile errors. This should work. Magic sauce. Cross your fingers, eyes, toes, ears, whatever you can cross. Let's just see if this works or not. Womp, 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 womp. No image. No image. That's not good. Wait. That's main view. No image here either. Cockabot. No image here. No image here. So that means we have to go to the main view and select our it is appear here, put a breakpoint in and just see if this is working. So let's see here. Our breakpoint is what? Do you know if you're completely shut down your device, if the data still be there when you open up the app again? Yes, the answer is yes. The data is stored in the database, and the database opens and closes, should open and close based on the application starting and closing. And so since the database is just written to disk, the data will always be there. The problem is me keeping track of the data state, and that's really the trick of this right now, is me making sure that I can keep track of what the state is. When the view comes into memory, so I know what's going on here actually. So this is a problem in my, let me check the authentication code real quick here. What happens is we have authentication view. Okay, the authentication view goes through and authenticates the user, and its job to say if the user is authenticated, we got to set who the current user is logged in. And so right here, that's what happens. We check if authenticated, and then we say, hey, if you're authenticated, then we need to tell it to load the user profile. This should load the user profile into memory so that any screen that needs it has a user profile. And this is where I think we're broken. So let's go take a look at this. If I go to jump to definition, load user profile, we just wrote this. Let's see here. So we should be able to put a breakpoint here and see whether or not when the user is authenticated, if we have a blob for it. We know we have a blob for it, so this should work. So if this is breaking, it's something in this code that's breaking, which we just wrote not too long ago. So let's see here. So we're saying we're grabbing the user. We should check the document if it contains the blob. Let's go ahead and log out and log back in, and this should tell us if this works or not. Log off. We're going to sign back in using our cheater method. So let's see here. All right, so the document does contain the key blob. We know that. So let's then go in and put a breakpoint here. Instead, we could step over, but it's probably just easier to do this instead. Let's go step in and see if that happens. So the blob is now set. That's coolio. So we definitely know that we have some data size, and this is what it is in memory. And if we looked at it, it's just going to be a bunch of like raw garbage data that you can't even understand because it's all binary. So we do see here we have the digest for it. Right here is the length of it. We know it's a pretty big file. That's working. So SwiftUI, Swift Data uses SQLite on its backend, so it would still work. So as long as you're using Swift Data, using the right writes and reads to it and stuff, Swift Data is behind the scenes hiding SQLite implementation from you. But if you're using Swift Data properly, if you close your app and restart it again, the data should still be there in the database. The only way it would not be there is if you delete the app, because the database should be stored inside the container of the app that's installed on the device. That means also if the device is upgraded, like if the app's updated to the latest version of the app, the database should still be there. Most of the time, the answer is that the data should get saved in either, and I think this is an option. I don't know all that much about Swift Data, but I know core data, like you could save it in iCloud or you could save it in the documents folder and have it synced to iCloud. There's a couple of different options for that. That's the other thing you have to watch out for, is where you're saving the actual Swift data. Are you saving it to iCloud for, in case the user gets a new phone, they can just sync that document, right? And that's usually the right answer for the user. In enterprise development, usually that's a bad thing because they don't want their data going into the cloud because then they can't track it. And because we sync, like Couchbase Lite syncs automatically for you, you don't have to worry about syncing to iCloud. Like if I build a brand new database, replication should kick in and it should go to the cloud, get all the data and push it down to the mobile device, which we're going to do in a future stream to show that off. So I work for Couchbase, and the database product I'm using here, Couchbase Lite, that's the company I work for, so I happen to know how it works. I know that it doesn't matter if the database survives or not, because the minute the user logs in, I'm just going to go to replication. It's going to go to the cloud database server. It's just going to pull all the records back down to the mobile device. So if you get a new mobile device and you get a new version of the app of that mobile device, the sync's going to happen automatically. I don't have to worry about iCloud and all that kind of stuff. But in Swift Data, you wouldn't have to worry about that. And that's something you'd have to take into account. So let's see here. I know that the blob has content. And so this breakpoint should also work. So if I go down one more, I am. So we can see here that we're saying make a new employee DAO, and the image data should be this raw data that we have. That's working. And in fact, if we were to look at, so authenticated employee is this repository, and that should be, this is using Combine. So we're saying that Combine should send a message to everybody that that object's been updated now, because we just updated it. That means anybody that's looking at that object should see this. So now if we continue on forward, we're still not getting the image there. So we have to see what's going on here. So let's go now and take a look at our main view. So we know that it's getting set at least. So now we have to figure out why main view, when it goes and looks at it, doesn't see the image. So the other way to do that is we have to look at this stack data, right? We have to say if data. So we want to say here. We want to say if that, we know the data is there. Otherwise, we're going to use this. But I think this is what we're having happening right here. My guess is that this statement right here is breaking because for some reason the image doesn't think it's there. So let's delete that. Let's go here and see if this is a state problem. All right, so let's see here. We have the user profile repository. We have the authenticated employee and image data. So let's see what that is. So if we go to self, we got the authentication, user profile right here it is. We have right here, we go to the authenticated employee. We can see that the data is set to nil right now, but the employee record is set. Even though we went through the code, something in the image is not saving it. So that's our repository that it's causing this problem. So in here, our DAO should be this. This should set it to here. Data should not be null because we're saying if let data here. So this is where the crust of the problem is that we are saying data is a object. So if we go into the DAO here, that's an object type. It would be data should be inherited from NS object. So we shouldn't lose the pointer reference on the heap to it. That shouldn't be causing it. What it's acting like is that the set is not getting done. There's only two properties here. So how to check this? Well, we should never be hitting this, right? But we are. That's what's going on. Duh. here's our problem. You gotta be kidding me. Oh boy. If you read this code, it logically makes sense what we're doing here, what I'm doing wrong, right? I just have to laugh at it because here's the whole thing. As a developer, I've been doing this 28 years. I just made a coding error, right? And I see the error now. It's sticking out like a sore thumb. And then once you see it, you just have to laugh, right? Because you're just looking, I was looking too hard at this. If the document has an image, let's set the user, the authenticated user, to the document of the employee with the image. But if we don't have an image, then just set it. Without the else statement, the if statement's going to run, and then this is always going to run. This doesn't set the image, so the image is going to be nil. So this is very much, I didn't finish my thought process of the if statement. I should have right away wrote the else, so I didn't get myself into like the loop of missing that else, right? And that just comes down to like remembering to finish a thought. The minute that you start refactoring a code and change it, make sure that you got your whole thought out, because otherwise you're going to be like me, coming back, 10 minutes later trying to debug this one. This doesn't work. I promise you now, if we rerun this just should work, and we should get the image of the person that's logged in. We got to delete some breakpoints. Let's delete these breakpoints because we're a little bit more confident that this should work. And there's our flower pictures. That's it, folks. We did it. We got it working. That's exactly what should happen. And now here we should have the flower pictures automatically also, the image that we got from the database. So that's all it took to do. It turns out for 15 minutes I struggled because of the fact I made an if statement change and forgot to put the else in our repository. Human error caused this particular bug. It turns out that's how most bugs are created, right? It's a developer that refactoring code. Refactoring code, most dangerous part of the development process. Regression is a real thing. It happens all the time. Folks, it's 4th of July. I think we did really well here. We got our user profile saved, and now we're loading it, and now we're loading in both the list view and we're loading on the repository view. I think we could just call this feature done. We know we have to go through and delete some existing pictures if we set a new one. We know that there's some to-dos to do on that. We're going to get that after we do some other stuff though, because I think we've done the user profile we've ground that into the ground. It's getting a little boring. Let's move on to something else. We'll come back to that. And we can clean that up at a later point in time. I may even just clean it up off stream because really it's not going to teach anybody anything new about SwiftUI. It's just boring database code that I have laying around that I have to run, right? Instead we want to do some cool hotness. So what are we going to do tonight? I think tonight what we probably want to take a look at with our expense reporter now is that we got these user profiles working. Is how do we make an expense report, right? How do we get an actual real expense report running? In order to do that, we probably should make the ability to like ninja some data, make some sample data. I like generating data as a developer. Like when I want to try to make a UI work, I don't like typing in this mobile phone over and over again. Like I had to type this username, I had to type this first name, this last name, this developer. I had to select this stuff. That is data entry. And if you write the screen once, that's great. But if you have to like do this over and over again for data entry for testing, oh God, and you're uninstalling and installing the app, that sucks. That's not fun. I'm not paid to do data entry. I'm a developer. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to hijack the developer screen. We're going to add a button here that says load some sample data, and we're going to blast a bunch of data into the app just for us to test. That means we'll now have some data laying around to do the expense report UI. We can make the cards render and stuff. We don't have to worry about data entry. And then once we get the list working, we'll build the thing to add a new expense report. So you'll either be able to add one manually, or we can use our data generator to generate some sample data. Now, of course, if we ever ship this to the App Store, we take that developer screen out. We just say we can check what version we're running. If we're running in release mode, like production mode versus developer mode, debug mode, and we'll say, hey, if we're in a certain mode, don't show that option in the list. Otherwise, do show it. And that's probably what we're going to do. So, folks, I think we're going to call the stream done like a turkey. And it's about 14 after on the 4th of July. I want to thank you, everybody, for joining my holiday stream. I know you didn't have to do this. It is, like I said, a holiday in the U.S. For those of you that are going to go watch some fireworks tonight and not pay attention to my stream, good on you. You should probably do that. And I probably won't stream that long tonight because I know fireworks are going to start and our dogs are going to go crazy. So it may only be like an hour stream tonight as we kind of go through and do some stuff. But either way, I'll probably be back on a little bit later on tonight. In the meantime, go out, spend some time with your family and friends, eat some great food, enjoy yourselves, stay safe, and treat each other with some respect and dignity because we're all humans, we're all developers, we're all in this together. That's the most important thing to remember. And check out the Discord links in my Twitch profile. There's links to great communities in Discord. I'll probably update my Twitch profile also to show Paul's community for Slack, because that's another great community to go to, be part of it. But I'll let you guys go for right now. And you guys have a great day. See you in a couple hours.